Okay, good morning guys and hopefully gals once again. This is a response to IchibanPuroresu, his video on the issue of Dragon Gate, the views of Dragon Gate fans and their preference to the Dragon Gate style and the indie style versus the views of the knowledgeable Puroresu view on the Puroresu style of wrestling, yeah. So my video be sort of an echo of what Daniel IchibanPuroresu was saying. I'm a bit of a fan of Dragon Gate and the American indie style, but not so much. I do have some issues with it. But before I get into that and my personal qualms of the indie and Dragon Gate style, let's look at something to say about art in general and the perspectives of art. Pro wrestling is just like any medium that attempts to subject and create art, just like music and films. It is completely subjective, and that's being objective. No style or genre is generally better than another, and when someone thinks his or her preferred style is generally better than another, then one word to describe them is ignorant. But let's think about this. Could it be suffice to say that if the scaffolding and implementation of a product or a text or a style is more difficult to perform in comparison to another, could it be said that that particular style is technically superior to the other? Not necessarily superior in a general level, but on a technical level. This is just something to think about, and I don't blame you if you dismiss it instantaneously, because the differences between DG and the other Puroresu promotions are so vast. I mean, the question could be pointless in the first place. But I guess it's just something to think about, something I was personally thinking about last night. Just think, maybe someone could ask me, someone definitely has asked a pro wrestler this question before, but perhaps someone could ask a pro wrestler who has worked both styles, the DG/indie style and the Puroresu style, and actually ask them which is more difficult to scaffold and implement. Would it be safe to say that a DG match would require more scaffolding and practice, and would it be safe to say that the Puroresu style requires more emotional and mental investment? If this is the case, let's go to the next level. Which aspect or which aspects are harder to channel? Physicality and scaffolding, or mental and emotional investment? It's just something to think about. Maybe some people could respond to that question. So saying that, I'm not the biggest. I'm not really the biggest Dragon Gate fan. I think I just said I was just before, but I'm not really. I should have said I don't. There are some matches in Dragon Gate on the American indies that I do like, but on a more general level, I'm not a huge fan. I'd much prefer to watch matches from New Japan or All Japan, or the indies like Battle Arts or Michinoku Pro, etc. So saying that, although I see Dragon Gate and the American indies as a terrific way to expose non-wrestling fans to wrestling, and on the same note, I can certainly see the appeal that this style of wrestling has towards fans. I mean, it's an attraction with multiple spectacles. I mean, it's a fantastical product. Probably a more appropriate description. Yeah, as I said, there have been some good matches. I'm going to keep this short. I've listened to most of the responses, and a lot of the things that I wanted to say have been uttered already. So just a few more things that I'd like to add, and I'll probably answer one of Daniel's questions, IchibanPuroresu's questions. My personal issue with Dragon Gate and some of the indie shows in the States is that the matches from the beginning of the card to the end all the moves, the matches involved really, in my opinion, devalue the moves that this great art of pro wrestling has instigated and evolved. As IchibanPuroresu said, Dragon Gate's a predominantly moves-based promotion, revolving around young, good-looking workers, attracting a large female fan base, particularly in Japan. Sorry about that. Pause, just lost my train of thought. But the main climb for me in Dragon Gate and USA indie matches is that after the 7th or 8th spot in succession within the space of about 5 to 10 minutes, is that I personally become disengaged with the match. My connection is cut. I mean, how many times can a crowd pop in one match, let alone a whole show? So you could ask yourself the question, how many times can a bloke orgasm in one night? I mean, some guys can orgasm multiple times, but that's not the point. I mean, the crowd popping is a sexual innuendo. It's a metaphor comparing crowd reactions to a bloke orgasming. You know, you build, you do the move, you get the pop from the crowd. Same with a bloke pumping, orgasm, pop goes the weasel. So you can see the comparison. This is actually paraphrasing Al Snow here. He brought this to my attention. I was watching a shoot interview. But saying that, I mean, he said that there should be one pop for one wrestling show. I disagree with that, but I definitely disagree with people trying to garner 10 pops in one match, which is how I interpret the majority of Dragon Gate, the American indies. I don't have a problem with a huge single pop in each of the last few matches of a card, which is what I think the major Japanese promotions do, but they certainly don't try to get pops within the first 3 or 4 matches. I mean, you have to only go so far as to look at Dragon Gate's first pay-per-view. I think not the first show. The first show was at LA Extreme night where Excalibur was commentating. I quite like Excalibur as a commentator. You look at the first match in that pay-per-view. I can't remember what it was called, but the first match was BB Hulk and Yamato, and it was 4.5 stars, for example. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, for me personally, after that and trying to get into the next matches, I would be exhausted, and it's a waste. And the rest of the show was quite good. I think all up there was like 5 4-star matches. But having a 4-star match at the start, trying to get huge pops at the beginning of the show is it devalues the whole show from the start. I mean, wasn't the crowd exhausted after the first match? I mean, I don't get it. Moving along, I'll have to rush through. I mean, but that's not to say you can incorporate ring psychology into a spot fest match. If you tell a story through the moves and you sell in between those moves, then you can have a really good match with emotional drama in it, and it is still a spot fest. So I think I might answer one of Daniel's questions now. We're at 9 minutes. And he asked us, how do we personally appraise matches? Matthew, the guy from Melbourne, the dinosaur screen name, basically summed it up for me. But I like to talk about how I personally appraise matches. I use the star system. After watching so much wrestling and eventually finding Puro through Meltzer's 5-star system, funnily enough, I did find myself critiquing and looking for things in matches like logicalness, how a match is represented through the storytelling. Often in Japan, the matches are not single entities like they are in the States. If a high-profile match with 2 high-profile guys will have had a match previous, about 6 months before, and they would have had a particular finish. This is in Japan, a Japanese example. They would have had a finish in a particular way. In the new match, they will work on that finish and alter it, making moves better or different or whatever, trying to encapsulate the crowd's involvement. I mean, that's sort of talking about King's Road as well and All Japan in the 90s. They were great matches. So I find myself appraising, much to my dismay, and people probably get pissed off about this, I find myself appraising botches and miscalculations in chemistry. I appraise timing, the timing of moves. I mean, I hate this about myself, but I can't really help it. If the botch is so bad and the mischemistry is so bad, when I rate matches, it's going to pull it down consequently. And when a wrestler performs a move, whether he is sucked in the crowd or not, and this should only happen once or twice in a match. I mean, if it's happened, if the workers have attempted to do this like 10 times in a match, then the star rating for the particular match is not going to be particularly good. So, okay, the things that I look at when appraising matches: storytelling psychology. If the wrestlers do attempt to tell a story or incorporate ring psychology, whether it works. Logicalness, which flows into psychology. The botches, the timing of moves, the transitions between spots and how they are sold. Whether the match looks believable and whether it's stiff as shit. Kidding. The match can still be believable without it being stiff as shit. And then the last thing, the general aura of a match. Combining all these things mentioned and garnering a personal connection with the match. So, I mean, obviously my opinion means shit. It's the opinion of the fans, but the way I see matches, whether I can whether I can garner a personal connection with the match, and the fans play a big part too, whether they're responding to the match can affect the last part of how I praise matches, the general aura of the match. So, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about before I log off. IchibanPuroresu gave reference to the postmodern concept of intertextual saturation, which was really interesting. I've never really seen it that way when there's no original gimmicks or characters these days, which is completely true. I mean, that there isn't a great deal of originality in gimmicks. I mean, there's only so much the bookers can do, or the ideas of workers can go. But one thing I'd like to bring up is when talking about unoriginality in gimmicks, it's probably been done before, and this is probably a silly thing to say as well, it's just something I was thinking about last night. Is there a way for a guy who borrows a gimmick off another worker who got over with that gimmick and somehow to refer to another postmodern concept of deconstruction? Is there a way for a worker to borrow a gimmick and somehow deconstruct it, whether it's in the ring or through a feud or an angle or a storyline? Is there a way for that wrestler to deconstruct it, so to show the crowd and the people how the particular gimmick could be flawed, or it could demonstrate to the crowd how good that gimmick was? When talking about deconstruction, the text isn't necessarily criticizing the concept, whether it's modern. It's not criticizing the concept, it's merely deconstructing it to show the audience how it actually works, or how it actually worked originally. And this is something I think could be quite cool if a wrestler could somehow do this. The match where they are deconstructing doesn't have to be a comedy match. It could be a hard-hitting drama-filled match, for example. So that's my video, coming up to 15 minutes. So I'm logging up. My next review will be on All Japan pay-per-view from August, Wrestling Love in Ryogoku. So logging off. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Alright, talk to you next time.